Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. In this episode, I'm doing some toy photography with Thor from Basement Boy Banter and talking about the differences in the various types of Canon cameras. So I'm out here doing some toy photography and I wanted to talk about the differences. A lot of people with the holiday season have been asking, hey, what camera should I get? And as always, there's the discussion that I always have of what kind of stuff are you thinking of shooting? Are you going to be mostly doing photos? Are you mostly going to do video? Are you going to do a little bit of both? And then if you're going to do a little bit of both, I always suggest, especially because I know them so well, Canon cameras. But then people sometimes get a little overwhelmed of like, hey, what type of camera should I get? There's this R, there's this M50, there's a 5D, I've heard of that. What are the differences? And to break it down most simply, there's kind of 4 different types of Canon cameras that you want to talk about. And the first is their M line, their M series. It was their introductory mirrorless cameras. It's an APS-C sensor, so it's more cropped in. So in some cases it's not as good in low light, but I've actually seen a lot of really good performances. My friend Chris Huffman has an M50 and just did his most recent Arya Davari Homecoming documentary, entirely shot on his M50 with just a couple LED lights to brighten up things. So the M50 is your most basic mirrorless camera, so it has really quick autofocus, pretty good video, can actually shoot up to 4K. The downsides, if you're in a smaller room, it's a little bit more zoomed in. There's not as many lens options, even though there is a converter to use your standard EF lenses. But the M line is kind of on an island to itself currently. And then the next thing I want to talk about is I'm going to call it the D series, but the D series that is APS-C sensor. So again, it won't be quite as good in low light situations because it's a cropped sensor, but this is also as we scale up in price. So in this one, I'm talking about the 70D, the 60D, the 90D. They're really good. They might not have the most modern features. Like the 90D finally has 4K that you can shoot in, but it is cropped because it is a cropped sensor. The 70D and above have dual pixel autofocus, which also the M line all have as well. And the dual pixel autofocus will help you track your subject in autofocus, is to make that a lot easier. One of the other things with the D line is these are APS-C sensors, but they are EF mount lenses, which is the traditional mount that Canon has had. So you have a wide variety of glass that you can get for the D line, and you can get a lot of third-party, like even this lens that I'm using right now is a Sigma lens, and you can use the EF or EFS mount lenses perfectly fine on your 70, 80, 90Ds. And then our next step up is the traditional Canon D line. This is their flagship stuff. This is your 5D, your 1DX, all of that fun, super, super expensive stuff that is amazing. It's for your sports shooters and stuff like that, your high-end concert photography, that kind of stuff. It's amazing in low light because it's a full frame camera, so it's taking the most use of the biggest sensor to capture the most amount of light. And the downsides, the cons of this, though, unfortunately, because of that full frame sensor, it also requires full frame lenses. So anything that has an EF-S mount or an M mount, you cannot use with it because there will be some vignetting on the side. But they're really good cameras. Like my friend Chris Manning has the 6D, and that's what he's shooting on for the most part. And I always love how his photos turn out. You know, a lot of other people are shooting on the 5D and some high-end, like I said, high-end sports photography will be shooting on like the 1DX, which is Canon's flagship up until our next category. So then last but certainly not least is the R line. The R line is their mirrorless cameras, so it's a little more technical. It'll have the most up-to-date features in photo and video. It started with the R, which is what I'm currently shooting on right now, and the Canon RP, which is a slightly different, it's not quite as fast and it doesn't have as many video features, version of the R. And then recently Canon upgraded and came out with the R6 and the R5, which those bump up the quality and the performance to have everything be a lot faster. Like this is about an 8 frames per second. The R5 and the R6 are about 16 frames per second, I believe. And then the recent R3 can shoot almost 30 frames per second in photos. So the R is really versatile. It's got the most, like I said, the most high-end features now because it has your most up-to-date photo and video stuff. Like I said, incredibly fast shutter speed, frames per second that you can shoot on for photo, as well as very quality 4K. But hopefully that gives you a good overview on the different style of Canon cameras. It's great happenstance, and it was good to get the motivation to shoot this video while I'm actually with Thor, because Thor is actually the first person I talked into getting an M50, because I looked at the specs and knowing the style of stuff he was going to be shooting, I was like, hey, this might be the perfect camera for you. So with all that said, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me at Knocked Out Films on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks.